Today we're fishing out of Tenby with Steve Bradley aboard his charter boat Triton 2. We're looking for a mixed day of fishing, but primarily we're going to be targeting smoothhounds, tope, along with some huss, rays and the other fish that you get on the mixed ground off Tenby. But to start off, we need to catch some fresh mackerel for bait. I'm using a Vengeance Slim 12-20 pound class boat rod, charter special 1000 lever drag reel loaded with 20 pound braid. There's a 20-foot monofilament leader attached to the end of the braid. We do that because it helps against abrasion resistance when drifting over rough ground. Braid, as fantastic as it is as a fishing line these days, is not particularly good when it comes to abrasion with rocks. So we normally use a 20-foot leader of monofilament. And I've got just a standard string of small mackerel, shrimp, hawkeye type lures. And hopefully if there's any mackerel around, they should soon produce a few. The trick when mackerel fishing is to work the entire water column to try and locate which depth the fish are. Sometimes they're just below the surface, sometimes they're just off the bottom, often at any depth in between. So just pull the lever back, put the reel into free spool, lower it into the water, maybe 10-12 feet down, jig it a few times, and perfect timing. That's exactly where the mackerel are. Reel back to the strike, lever back to the strike position, and wind your fish up. And there we are. How's that for a textbook start to a day's fishing? Well, Steve's anchored us on the first mark. It's a patch of rough ground just a few hundred yards off the monastic island of Caldy, which is off the coast of Pembrokeshire, very close to Tenby. And it's good mixed ground, August. Got a chance of catching a huge variety of different species here. Primarily, on this spot we're going to be fishing for smoothhounds, using peeler crab for bait. But peeler crab is such a fantastic and versatile bait that there are a wide range of species that we can catch on that, so we really don't know what we're going to catch. I'm using the same rod I used to catch mackerel earlier. It's the Vengeance Slim 12 to 20 pound class boat rod, which is perfect for this light inshore mixed ground fishing. Same reel, charter special 1000, loaded 20 pound braid, monofilament leaders we discussed. And so far as terminal gear goes, well, simplicity in itself. It's a straightforward running ledger, small boom threaded on the monofilament leader, and again this is another reason you use the leader when fishing braid, because the last thing you want is the boom sliding up and down on thin braid, which will damage the braid, but also the braid will damage the boom, which will make it worse when it gets damaged itself. So that's sliding on the monofilament leader. One bead just to protect the knot at the end of the leader, which is connected to a strong link. Makes it easy to connect and reconnect spare hook lengths. Hook length, again, straightforward. This is 5 foot of Tiagra fluorocarbon clear, a small swivel at one end, and a single size 2.0 hook at the other. And a lot of people think that baiting up with crab is complicated. Well, it's as complicated or as simple as you like to make it. Most of my fishing I like to keep as simple as I can. All you need to do with a crab when fishing on a boat is just remove the legs. If you're fishing for flatfish and things, you can peel those and use them as bait on their own, but mainly for the sort of stuff we're fishing for today, you want a decent sized bait. So just the main body of the crab that's been peeled, mounted on the hook, force it back against the shank of the hook, making sure that the hook point remains clear and well exposed, so when it goes inside a fish's mouth there's a good chance of it actually connecting and not getting spat back out, which will happen if the point is buried in the main body of the bait. And then just use some fine elastic to secure it on the hook like that. Lightly bind it along the shank, not too tight, just enough to keep it in position. Again, making sure that that hook point remains clear and exposed. Snap the elastic off, and that's it. Just a nicely presented single peeler crab bait that hopefully is going to catch a smoothhound or a bass or gurnard or a ray or who knows what. To fish it, it's just a case of little lob, just get over the side, 15-20 feet away from the boat, thumb on the spool, all the way down to the bottom. Still going, still going. Okay, and as soon as you feel it tap bottom, put the lever drag to the strike position. A lot of people get confused with exactly where to set the lever drag. Well, the principle when using a lever drag reel is exactly the same as when using a reel with a star drag. And the rule of thumb is that the drag setting at the strike position should be approximately 25% of the breaking strain of the main line you're using. I'm using 20-pound braid, so I want about 5 pound of drag set at the strike setting. The best way to set your drags is at home before you arrive on the boat. Use a spring balance, set them as accurately as you can. With experience you'll know where or whereabouts it should be, but when adjusting the drag, it should always be in free spool. This is the drag adjustment. Clockwise to tighten it, increase it, anti-clockwise to ease it off, and that adjusts the amount of drag at strike. Now the big advantage with a lever drag over a star drag is that whereas they're both adjustable, when you're using a lever drag you can continually adjust the drag when fishing and always return to a pre-known position, your 5 pound of drag setting in this case. With a star drag, of course, you can adjust it, tighten it or release it, but you're never actually sure that you're going to adjust it back to that perfect setting without checking on the scales. With the drag set at strike at 5 pound, if you find that you do need more drag for any instance, you just simply press in the button at strike and you can push it forward, and that will increase the drag significantly. If you want to release it, pull it back all the way to free spool, push it forward, and you're back on your 5 pound drag setting. When using braid, the smoothness and the simplicity and the practicality of a lever drag is a definite advantage over a star drag. Personally, I prefer to use the star drags with monofilament for up-tiding, that sort of style fishing, but for general downtide bait fishing and fishing with lures over wrecks, etc, etc, whenever I'm using braid, my preference almost always, especially with light line, is to have a lever drag. Well, that crab sat on the bottom. Let's see how long it is before hopefully something finds it. Okay, it looks like we're going to have a good day. I mean, this first crab bait's been down 2 or 3, 4 minutes. And nice rattle bite on the rod tip. I've hooked something. It doesn't feel particularly impressive. I've got a sneaky suspicion it might be a dogfish. And let's just wind him up and see exactly what it is. There's a little bit of weight there, but it's not exactly doing a lot. Leader's on the reel, and here's the fish, and it's a smoothhound. Oh, I'll swing him aboard, Rich. He's only a small one. There we are, Smoothhound's go. It's pretty unimpressive, but as to proving the effectiveness of crab as a bait, and particularly for Smoothhounds, I mean 3 or 4 minutes and the fish is in the boat. First Smoothhound of the day. Let's put him back. There's another fish. We've only been fishing about 20 minutes and it's pretty much a biter cast. Well, it is a biter cast. And this feels like yet another Smoothhound, which it is. I mean, that bait, I dropped it down to the bottom and I was just holding the rod for a few extra seconds just to confirm that the lead was actually fishing on the bottom, and for the first moment I thought that it was, what I could feel was the lead rolling, but the tip bent over and yet another Smoothhound. Even the seagull's impressed. Thank you. Well, we had a fantastic morning's fishing for Smoothhounds on the northern side of Caldy Island, and now the tide's come to our advantage, the right stage of tide for tope fishing. Steve's brought us to a mark in 100 foot of water, about a mile south of Caldy Island. And we're using pretty much the same gear. I've got 2 rods out. I've got a 12 to 20 pound class Vengeance Slim and a 20 to 30 pound class Vengeance Slim. I'm using again the same Charter Special reel, a light reel, which is perfect for tope fishing in open water such as this, and also a fast retrieve Thorium 16. For bait we're using those lovely fresh mackerel we caught this morning, and the rig is pretty much exactly the same as we're using for tope, a simple running ledger, but obviously tope have got serious teeth, so we've upgraded the hook lengths and we're using 200 pound monofilament. I'm also using barbless hooks and barbless bronze hooks, which is my preference when tope fishing. Makes it easier to unhook the fish, and if a fish is deep hooked you can cut the line and the bronze hook will either fall out or rust out within a very short time. But it's 2 hours to low water, which is prime time for tope fishing, so hopefully there'll be a few fish around. Here we are. Greater spotted dogfish, or bohus as it's also known. Not exactly the hardest fighting fish in the sea, probably one of the greediest. Lesser spotted dogfish. Quite possibly my least favourite fish in the UK. No, I'll correct that. Definitely my least favourite fish in the UK. Though saying that, there's many a hard day fishing being saved by a couple of these. But they always seem to feed hardest when you don't want them and when you're trying to target something else, like today.